BTS news. Military admits surveillance of Jikook, but here's what they didn't expect. Issues surrounding the closeness of two BTS members, Jimin and Jungkook, who has been known by the nickname Jikook by fans, again triggered a wave of attention. This time coming directly from within the military institution. After their emotional meeting at the military headquarters spread through various unofficial information channels, a shocking statement finally emerged from the South Korean military. They admitted that the surveillance of Jimin and Jungkook's interactions was indeed carried out secretly, but what happened after that was completely beyond their expectations. According to a military official interviewed by local media on condition of anonymity, interactions between BTS members within the military have always been a concern. We know they are not ordinary soldiers. They bring a huge impact socially and emotionally to the public. So every meeting involving big names like Jimin and Jungkook, especially personal ones, we monitor very carefully. This oversight is said to be carried out to maintain order, avoid abuse of privileged access, and ensure that military protocols remain fairly executed. However, according to the source, there is one thing that they never expected. At first, we thought it was just a reunion of two friends, or maybe just nostalgia between old colleagues, the official continued. But when we saw the internal CCTV footage, which was never released to the public, we were really hit emotionally. The way they looked at each other, the way they sat in silence for almost 5 minutes without talking, it wasn't normal. It's not just friendship, it's soul attachment. The source said that some of the officers involved in the surveillance actually felt guilty because they entered into a space that was supposed to be the emotional privacy of two human beings who had gone through so much together. In a brief press conference held today at the Military Training Center, a spokesman stated that no disciplinary violations were found from the meeting between Private Park Jimin and Private John Jungkook. However, it adds in an unusual tone, we as a firm and structured state institution are not used to witnessing such deep and honest inter-soldier relations. This is not about romance, but about sincere humanity. One of the internal reports suggests that some military commanders who heard about Jikook's interactions actually used him as an example in soldier mental briefing sessions. The psychological strength they get from supporting each other is what we expect from all members of the military. Right, one of the training reports leaked to social media. Some of the young soldiers even said that they were more open to supporting each other because they saw Jikook's exemplary relationship. If people like them can be honest with their feelings, why can't we? Said one of the young members in basic training. It didn't take long for armies around the world to learn the news. Many appreciated the openness of the military, but even more were moved that Jimin and Jungkook's relationship turned out to have an influence that went beyond entertainment. It's not about fan service anymore. It's about two people supporting each other in even the harshest conditions. Right, one of the Army of Brazil. And the military itself recognizes that that's incredible. According to the schedule, Jimin and Jungkook will still serve in the military for the next few months. But rumors suggest that the second meeting could take place again in the context of joint training or special assignments. Although there was no official confirmation, an internal source stated that their emotional situation was an important consideration in scheduling ahead, the evening after the military press conference ended. The atmosphere at the headquarters was quiet again as usual. But for two hearts recently reunited and secretly stalked, everything has changed. Jungkook stared at the dark sky from his barracks window. He does not yet know that his interaction with Jimin this afternoon became the subject of official surveillance, until a boss called it directly that night during Apple Night. Only one sentence. Cold, but he could not ignore. Soldier John, you've attracted more attention than you thought. No angry tone. But to Jungkook, it was like a bullet going in without a sound. Of course, there is CCTV, but he never thought his meeting with Jimin would be the subject of internal discussion. And what is more surprising, even praised, on the other side of the base, Jimin was sitting writing in his notebook, something he had begun to do frequently since becoming a soldier. It is not written to be sent. Not for publication either. but only as a way to maintain sanity. And that night, he wrote about what he had heard from his barracks mates. You know, your meeting with Jungkook was the talk of the coaches. But strangely, they weren't angry. They even say, sometimes soldiers need a reason to stay human. Jimin smiled bitterly. The world they live in today is hard, rigid, structured. But it is precisely in rigidity that honest feelings shine brightest. He opens a copy of the letter he wrote to Jungkook. He remembers every word. But tonight he wants to write the sequel. If they want to watch, let them learn. It's about the feeling, about the steadfastness, about the silence that's never fake. Our world is too noisy with formality, so if 1 hour we make them rethink, then maybe it's not an oversight. Maybe it's a mirror. Several superiors who had been secretly listening to reports of Jikook's interactions held informal discussions. No offense can be sentenced. No code of ethics has been violated. But there was one question they didn't expect to have to answer. How can two humans sustain each other so strongly, just through silence? One of the coaches wrote an internal report with the last sentence that made an impression. If every soldier had someone like that who reminded him of the reason why he survived, then maybe we don't need too many group psychology sessions. Jimin and Jungkook never planned for the meeting to go viral. They didn't even know that their voiceless recording was being played secretly in the Central Command meeting room. But sincerity doesn't need a microphone. It goes through the walls of protocol, into the heads and hearts of anyone who sees. A few days after that, Jungkook began to recompose the melody in his mind. He doesn't have a guitar. There is no piano. But he had a voice. And he had a sentence from Jimin's letter that he still memorized. Breathe in the same sky. The song is not finished. But he knew who would be the first to hear it. And on the other side of the headquarters, Jimin again wrote in his notes, I don't know who's watching us. But if they can see how broken and whole we are at the same time, maybe they'll understand that even in a place that limits everything, the heart cannot be restrained. A few weeks after their meeting and the shocking military surveillance, the atmosphere at the headquarters slowly returned to normal. No more reprimands, no more questions. But change has happened. Not on the officer's desk, but in the hearts of many. That day, Jungkook sat alone on the edge of the training ground, staring at the barracks where Jimin had stopped by. He brought a piece of paper and a small pencil that he requested from the administration officer. In between scheduled rehearsals, he began to write down verses that flowed from his chest. The first stanza reads, You say we breathe in the same sky, but sometimes I feel like you're in my own chest, closer than air. The song has no title. Jungkook refuses. He wanted the song to live only for one person. No name, no genre. Only silence turns into melody. He kept the paper in the fold of his little notebook, along with Jimin's first letter. A few days later, a music instructor from the special training unit came to give an afternoon entertainment class. Spontaneously, Jungkook offered to contribute a song. No name, no introduction. And when he sang it, the room was silent. Nobody cheered. No one clapped until the last stanza was over. The soldiers just fell silent, because they knew the song was not just a tune. It was the contents of the soul that were shed between the chimes of the time they lived together. What they didn't know was that this song was being broadcast internally to other units, including the one Jimin was at the far end of the barracks. Jimin sat in a corner of the room. Hearing her voice, he knew it was Jungkook's voice. He knew the song was written from their meeting. And he cried without a sound. After the song was over, Jungkook closed his notebook and smiled a little. He doesn't need anything in return. He just wanted Jimin to know that an hour they spent together, even under surveillance, would never be wasted. After all the attention they received from superiors and bystanders, there was no punishment, no warning. Only one official record remains in the administrative report. There were no disciplinary violations. But this meeting between the two members reflects a spirit of solidarity and psychological resilience. It is recommended to be an example in the training of togetherness and positive mentality. That's all, but that's enough.